In this video I'm asking, when did we stop being nice to each other? Let's have a look. Roll titles. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James at Micro Four Thirds guy with you once again, and a bit of a saddening video this one to do, but it's very pertinent about my photography. When did we stop being nice to each other? It seemed that 4 years ago, when all this pandemic law kicked off, everything was be nice. You're walking around the streets, you have to keep a distance from people, but you had to be nice, and everybody was nice. We seem to stop being nice. The last 3 times I've taken my camera out in the streets in my own city, I've had verbal abuse for taking photographs. I've never noticed that much in the past. I have had it a couple of times, but 3 times in a row I've had abuse for taking photographs, telling me I can't do what I'm doing, I can't do this, I can't do that. And people don't ask and say, hi, what are you doing? That looks interesting. They just come straight out and say, you can't, not allowed. I'm going to complain about you for doing illegal activity. Now, fair enough, if I was putting the camera into someone's face, that would be different. That's not what I'm on about. There was one situation where I was watching a steam train come along at a fence at the far side of a car park and had somebody shout, oi, 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 what are you doing? I'm standing in the car park taking a photograph of a train. Well, you can't do that. Why? Because you can't. The law says. But it wasn't a case of finding out any details of it. It was a case of just having an opportunity to shout at a photographer. I was out the day before yesterday in the city. I rarely go into the city now, but I was out the day before yesterday in the city, and I was just taking some general photographs around, and I was accused by one woman of being some sort of pervert taking photographs of the kids. I looked around, there wasn't any actual kids in the city centre at the time, and it wasn't the school coming out time, you know, that's where they usually come around. So I had a look around and I thought, well, first of all, I had a look around and thought, is she talking to me? But then I realised she was talking to me, and I looked around, there's no kids. What do you mean by this? But the moment passed for her, she wanted to have her shout at somebody who was doing illegal activity. I'm going to get the police onto you, I'm going to do this, that and the other. Now in the UK, there are no, in general, rules against you taking photographs anywhere in public. If you're in public, you can take photographs. There are 1 or 2 restricted places, and they're for quite serious reasons. But in general, you can't have your eyes trespassed. What you can see from a public place, you can photograph. Whether it be a building, whether it be a person. And notice I say a person. I didn't say an adult or a child. I said a person. It could be either. There's no laws against taking photographs of anybody. There are some common sense things which I would expect photographers to implement. But if I'm taking a photograph of a city centre and there just happens to be some people in there and some of them happen to be kids, so be it. I had some photographs which I saw from years ago where my father had taken them on the beach. And these were in the mid-60s, and the beach was full of families with kids. We were on holiday, and he was taking a photograph of my grandparents actually sitting in deck chairs. But you looked there, and there was thousands of people on the beach. It was jam-packed, and the majority of them were kids. Nobody thought anything else of it. But nowadays we seem to be in this wrapped-up world where people have too many sensitivities. Now the last one was about half an hour ago, and this is what's really pushed me over, because the third one, as I say, in 3 photo sessions, and here I was nowhere near anything except for the fact I'm on a trading estate in the UK. It's where I normally have my cup of coffee, and the coffee shop's shut. The staff had all disappeared off home. I actually said goodnight to them as I went because I know them quite well, and there's a store just across to the side, a DIY store just across the side, and I was actually not even taking photographs. I was just sitting at the table with this camera, with my little G100, playing around with it and just looking at things and just playing around. I tend to I'll get a camera out every so often and I'll just go through it. If I haven't used it for a while, or I haven't tried anything unusual with it for a while, I'll sit there and I'll go through and I'll try and memorize controls, and I get it so that I don't have to think about what I'm doing. I'll instinctively go to any button at any place or any knob and just know what it's going to do and what happens if I turn it or press it or alter it in some way. And I've just had a load of abuse from somebody for taking photographs of them. I didn't even see them. And again, it was one of those ones where I couldn't get a word in sideways. They were just nasty. Now, none of these people who talked to me in these last 3 sessions have been nice. There's been no niceness. There's just been pure vitriol. It's been pure nastiness. And as a photographer, that's getting me down, but it's also worrying me slightly. Are we being seen as photographers as just some sort of weirdos, as some sort of perverts, as some sort of freaks from society? Because if that's the case, that really worries me. This medium has been around for getting on for 200 years now, photography. You know, from all the way back to the Fox Talbots and people like that, and you know, and all the way through, photography has been something which has been recognised as a good thing, an interesting thing. Yes, I know that there was some natives of certain countries who thought that maybe their spirits were being taken away by this little box. I can understand that, but that was quite a number of decades ago, and to people who were very unenlightened as to what the Western world was like. That really shouldn't be the case now. We don't have many people in this world who aren't accustomed to technology anyway. So those sort of things should be gone. And the only thing I can think of is it's putting more cameras in the hands of more people. But more people then, because they have a small understanding what they do, are reading their own, maybe their own shortfalls, maybe their own weirdnesses. Is that a word? Yeah, maybe these people are the sort of people who protest too much. Maybe they're the ones who have the real problems, not the photographer. Let me know below, because I'm really interested in what you feel. If you've had problems on this sort of scale. I mean, I've had the thing where people don't want the houses photographed and things like that. I did a video on that a little while ago, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, where I got shouted at from somebody in a bedroom window in a nice country house where I was miles away from. I can understand that. I didn't agree with them. I thought they were totally over the top. But I can understand not having your home photographed. That's fair dues. But these aren't people's homes. This is just the normal outside world. I'm not trespassing anywhere. I'm not putting cameras into people's faces. I don't agree with that. I'm not one of these auditors who shoves a camera in and expects to try and gain a reaction. In fact, I'm going out my way not to have reactions. I try to avoid taking photographs of people directly on the street wherever possible, because although I'm fascinated by street photography, it's not something which A, I'm good at, and B, I want to be too much involved in. Street photography for me is about the street and not necessarily the people in the street. Or if it is about the people in the street, it's having their permission to make contact with them. But as I said, let me know in the comments below if you've had any problems like this, because it really has knocked me for six a little bit. It's got me to the point where I just don't want to take my camera out. I'm a little bit nervous about taking the camera outside and in public and taking photographs anymore. And that's very sad, because this is something, well, it's my hobby, but it's certainly a little bit more than a hobby. It's become a passion over the years, my photography, and more recently videography, making videos like this. And the interesting thing is, when I was in Cyprus in November, in March, I beg your pardon, when I was in March, I went out quite late at night with the camera and I was taking some photographs, and there was one of the local guys, a Greek Cypriot guy, walking past me, probably a similar age to me, I would say, in his early 60s. And I was conscious to avoid getting in the photograph. And I spoke to him and said hello, and he spoke to me. And I was quite conscious about trying to avoid getting him in the photograph, so I didn't disturb his privacy. Yet he wanted to be photographed. He asked to be photographed. Can I be in your photograph? Yeah. And he was really into it, and I ended up emailing him some photos. And it was just a difference in reaction in a different country. Have we got so caught up in ourselves in the Western world that we've lost some of our freedoms? I'll leave it for you to decide. But let me know, as I say, in the comments below. I really would like to know if you've had problems like this. I don't want to know about auditing stories. They're not what I'm after. I'm not after the sort of thing where you've got run-ins with police and you videoed them. That's not the sort of thing I'm into. But if you have got genuine stories where you've been just a normal photographer doing normal photography and not putting the camera into people's faces but still having these reactions, and were they in good, pleasant interactions, or were they these quite abrasive, caustic, aggressive interactions which I've suffered in the last 3 sessions? I'll really be pleased to see your comments. Anyway, till the next time, these wonderful people are my Patreon patrons, and it's to them that I owe the support of the channel, as well as the people who bought me a coffee in the PayPal link below, or give me the super thanks. I thank you all because you're the people who keep this channel going. Now, if you do get the chance, it really does help, and I know that I keep on saying this, but it really does help if you can give me a thumbs up or subscribe. It costs you nothing to do either, but it makes such a difference to how the channel goes out there and how many people see the channel. You wouldn't believe it. When you look at the stats, it really does make a difference. So if you can give me a thumbs up and subscription, that would be absolutely superb. But till the next time, I'm loath to say this, keep on taking your camera out if you feel safe. But most of all, keep on having fun with your photography unless somebody stops that fun. Bye bye.